I wouldn't say I have a lack of fear. In fact, I'd like my fear emotion to be less because it's very distracting and fries my nervous system. If you're trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all the ingredients in the right proportion. When Henry Ford made cheap, reliable cars, people said, "Nah, what's wrong with a horse?" That was a huge bet he made, and it worked. When somebody has a breakthrough innovation, it is rarely one little thing. Very rarely is it one little thing. It's usually a whole bunch of things that collectively amount to a huge innovation. You shouldn't do things differently just because they're different. They need to be better. There are really two things that have to occur in order for a new technology to be affordable to the mass market. One is you need economies of scale. The other is you need to iterate on the design. You need to go through a few versions. Talent is extremely important. It's like a sports team, the team that has the best individual player will often win, but then there's a multiplier from how those players work together and the strategy they employ. You have to say, well, why did it succeed where others did not? I would just question things. It would infuriate my parents. That I wouldn't just believe them when they said something cause I'd ask them why. And then I'd consider whether that response made sense given everything else I knew. It's very important to like the people you work with, otherwise life and your job is going to be quite miserable. Disruptive technology where you really have a big technology discontinuity tends to come from new companies. Don't delude yourself into thinking something's working when it's not, or you're gonna get fixated on a bad solution. If something has to be designed and invented, and you have to figure out how to ensure that the value of the thing you create is greater than the cost of the inputs, then that is probably my core skill. I always have optimism, but I'm realistic. It was not with the expectation of great success that I started Tesla or SpaceX. It's just that I thought they were important enough to do anyway. I think it is possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. The path to the CEO's office should not be through the CFO's office, and it should not be through the marketing department. It needs to be through engineering and design. Persistence is very important. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. There is a tremendous bias against taking risks. Everyone is trying to optimize their ass covering. It's okay to have your eggs in one basket as long as you control what happens to that basket. Brand is just a perception, and perception will match reality over time. Sometimes it will be ahead, other times it will be behind. But brand is simply a collective impression some have about a product. I don't think it's a good idea to plan to sell a company. A company is a group organized to create a product or service, and it is only as good as its people and how excited they are about creating. I do want to recognize a ton of super talented people. I just happen to be the face of the companies. People work better when they know what the goal is and why. It is important that people look forward to coming to work in the morning and enjoy working. If you're co-founder or CEO, you have to do all kinds of tasks you might not want to do. If you don't do your chores, the company won't succeed. No task is too menial. I say something, and then it usually happens. Maybe not on schedule, but it usually happens. I don't spend my time pontificating about high-concept things. I spend my time solving engineering and manufacturing problems.